The internet froze for a second, because when Chrisean Rock went live and made a surprise announcement about her future, fans immediately started watching one person's reaction: Blueface. For years, their relationship has played out like a roller coaster in front of millions. Love, chaos, loyalty, betrayal, reconciliations, all documented online and on reality platforms. But this time felt different. This wasn't just another argument. It felt final. When Chrisean hinted at moving forward with someone new and building a life outside the cycle she shared with Blueface, his reaction wasn't loud. It was emotional. And that's what caught people off guard. Because when someone who's always been outspoken suddenly looks shaken, you start to wonder what changed behind the scenes. When Chrisean Rock went live, it wasn't framed like drama at first. It wasn't a shouting match. It wasn't a back and forth with Blueface in the comments. It felt calm, almost grounded. And that's exactly why fans paid attention. She spoke about moving forward. She spoke about peace. She spoke about focusing on her future and not repeating old cycles. There was no wild rant, no chaotic energy, no "we're back together" teaser. Instead, there was a tone shift, a maturity that longtime followers immediately noticed. And then came the part that made social media spiral. She hinted at a new relationship and suggested she was serious about building something different this time. Not performative, not chaotic, different. Now here's where things get delicate. She did not confirm explosive paternity drama. She did not accuse anyone. What she confirmed was emotional separation, and that alone felt seismic. Because for years, the public has watched her relationship with Blueface function like a loop. Break up, reconcile, fight online, public loyalty tests, emotional volatility, repeat. So when she started speaking about stability and new beginnings, fans immediately shifted their attention to Blueface. His response wasn't loud at first either. Instead of immediate trolling or dismissive comments, which people are used to, his energy seemed heavier, slower, less combative. And when someone known for sharp responses pauses, people notice. Over the years, their dynamic has been unpredictable. Both have said things publicly that escalated conflict. Both have leaned into the spectacle at times. But this moment felt less like spectacle and more like closure. Blueface has often portrayed himself as emotionally detached. But if you watch closely, there have always been flashes of vulnerability beneath the bravado. When Chrisean talked about peace and growth, it subtly reframed the narrative. It wasn't about who won. It wasn't about who cheated. It wasn't about loyalty tests. It was about moving on. And moving on hits differently than arguing. Because arguments leave doors open. Moving on closes them. Fans began analysing his posts, his tone, even his silence. Silence from someone who usually speaks quickly can feel like a breakdown, even if it isn't dramatic tears on camera. Was he shocked? Was he hurt? Was he simply processing? That's where the speculation started building. But here's what's clear. When one person in a highly public relationship signals emotional finality, it forces the other person to confront reality in real time, in front of millions. And that kind of pressure doesn't always look like yelling. Sometimes it looks like quiet. If you've followed Blueface and Chrisean Rock over the years, you already know their pattern. Public fight, viral moment, online shade, reunion, repeat. It became predictable. Every breakup came with noise, screenshots, subtweets, lives filled with tension. There was always a back-and-forth energy that suggested unfinished business. Even when they claimed it was over, something always kept the door slightly open. But this time, it didn't feel like a cycle restarting. It felt like a shift. When Chrisean started talking about peace, maturity, and choosing differently, Blueface's energy didn't match his usual tone. There wasn't immediate trolling. There wasn't aggressive dismissal. And that absence spoke louder than anything he could have said. Because historically, Blueface has responded quickly, sarcastically, sometimes defensively. He's rarely quiet when it comes to her. This time, it felt like he paused. And that pause is what fans are reading as a breakdown. Not necessarily tears, not necessarily public emotion, but a crack in the usual bravado. When someone who thrives in chaos suddenly looks reflective, people notice. Part of what makes this different is timing. Both of them have grown publicly over the past year. Fatherhood conversations, legal issues, public scrutiny. Maturity doesn't happen overnight, but pressure accelerates reflection. So when Chrisean spoke in a calmer tone about her future, it didn't feel impulsive. It felt intentional. And intentional decisions are harder to fight. Blueface has often framed their relationship as intense but inevitable. Like no matter what happened, they'd circle back. That belief creates a kind of emotional security even in chaos. But when one person signals they're done circling, that's destabilizing. And destabilization doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like processing. There were subtle clues, slightly more serious captions, less performative energy. A tone that felt heavier than before. Fans began commenting that he seemed less amused and more affected. Now, to be clear, neither of them confirmed a dramatic paternity twist. The headlines online may exaggerate, but what's actually unfolding publicly is emotional transition, not scandal-proof. What makes this moment powerful is that it feels final in a way previous breakups didn't. Not because of anger, because of calm. And calm can be the clearest sign someone is serious. Here's what longtime followers are picking up on. This doesn't feel like a stunt. It doesn't feel like promo. It doesn't feel like another chapter in a never-ending loop between Blueface and Chrisean Rock. It feels tired. And not in a dramatic way, in a real way. For years, their relationship has lived in extremes. Extreme love, extreme arguments, extreme loyalty tests, extreme public reactions, and that intensity kept people watching. Whether fans supported them or criticized them, the dynamic was magnetic because it was unpredictable. But lately, something subtle shifted. Chrisean's tone wasn't reactive, it was resolved. When someone who once fought loudly for a relationship starts speaking softly about peace, that's usually not temporary. That's usually someone who has processed the ending privately before announcing it publicly. And that's what made Blueface's reaction feel heavier this time. Because you can argue with chaos. You can fight with anger. But you can't easily fight someone who has emotionally stepped away. That kind of separation creates a different kind of impact. Blueface has always maintained a certain public detachment, almost like nothing truly shook him. Even during past breakups, there was a sense that the door was never fully closed. But this time, fans are noticing less sarcasm, less performative dismissal, and more stillness. And stillness from someone known for reaction is loud. It's also important to understand something psychological here. When two people are bonded through intensity, that intensity can become addictive. The highs feel euphoric, the lows feel devastating, and over time, the chaos becomes familiar, safe in its own way. So when one person chooses stability instead of intensity, it can feel like rejection, even if it's growth. If Chrisean is truly choosing peace and distance, that means Blueface isn't just losing a relationship. He's losing a dynamic that defined a huge chapter of his public identity. That's not small. That's seismic. And it doesn't require yelling to feel it. Fans are interpreting this moment as closure because it lacks the spark of another round. There's no wait and see. No, they'll be back. Instead, there's a quiet acknowledgement that maybe both of them are moving into different seasons of life, and growth, when it's real, is usually quieter than drama. Now the real question becomes, if this is the end of the cycle, who are they without it? Because for years their relationship wasn't just personal, it was part of their brand. And stepping away from that means redefining identity. If this truly is the end of the cycle between Blueface and Chrisean Rock, then the biggest shift isn't romantic, it's strategic. For years, their relationship wasn't just personal, it was content. Whether intentional or not, their dynamic fueled headlines, engagement, interviews, and social media traction. Every argument trended. Every reunion sparked debate. The chaos kept both of their names circulating. But there's a downside to that kind of visibility. When your brand becomes attached to volatility, growth requires separation. If Chrisean is truly pivoting towards stability, focusing on motherhood, faith, or personal peace, that repositioning could reshape how the public sees her. Instead of being defined by conflict, she becomes defined by transition. And transition narratives often gain sympathy and support. For Blueface, the shift is different. He's built an image around unpredictability, confidence, and emotional detachment. But if this relationship was a central emotional anchor, even in chaos, losing it publicly could feel destabilizing. The challenge now isn't drama, it's reinvention. Without the back-and-forth dynamic, Blueface has to stand independently in the spotlight again. That means attention shifts back to music, business moves and personal accountability. There's no shared narrative to buffer perception, and that can be uncomfortable. Because relationships, even turbulent ones, create storyline. When that storyline ends, the silence feels louder. This moment also changes how fans engage. Instead of watching for the next fight, they're watching for growth. And growth doesn't always generate viral moments, but it builds longevity. The most telling sign that this might be final isn't what was said, it's what wasn't. No escalation, no rapid-fire responses, no immediate reunion rumors. Just distance. And distance, when maintained, becomes reality. If both of them truly move forward separately, this could mark the first chapter in years where their names aren't automatically linked. That alone would be historic for followers who've watched the saga unfold. And sometimes the biggest breakup isn't loud, it's definitive. Now let's be honest, we've seen this story before. Breakups, live streams, emotional statements, public reactions, and then, somehow, they find their way back into each other's orbit. But this time feels different, because when Chrisean Rock talks about peace instead of passion, when Blueface responds with quiet instead of chaos, when the drama feels replaced with distance, that's not just another chapter. That might be closure. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think this is really the end of their cycle? Or is this just another pause before history repeats itself? Was Blueface actually hurt, or just processing publicly? Or is Chrisean genuinely choosing a new path? Or is this part of the same pattern? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, because whether you've supported them, criticized them, or just watched from the sidelines, this moment feels like a turning point. If you made it this far, hit like, so I know you want deeper breakdowns like this. Subscribe for real-time analysis when the next update drops, and turn on notifications, because if anything changes, we're breaking it down immediately. This story has been loud for years, but sometimes the quiet moments, they're the ones that actually matter.